a WFSB Plus original. This is the Capitol Rundown.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Capitol Rundown. This is when we break down the politics that matter to you from both sides of the aisle. For the Republicans, we have Themis, Klarides, and Democratic strategist Jimmy Tickey. Thank you both for being here. It's always fun to have you, and every week there's a lot going on. All right, so let's start with 100 days of Trump's second administration. We are reporting about the approval ratings slipping a little bit, some thinking that his direction is too extreme. So I want to start with you, Themis. What do you think about this 100-day review? There are also a lot of people that we're talking to on the streets who think the president is doing a great job.
Well, I mean, I think you have to look at a couple things. I mean, we could sit here and talk about this for the next 3 hours, but like to hit the important points, I think it's a data point, right? I mean, I think that there are a lot of questions as to what he's doing. His approval ratings have been moving down in most areas. I mean, number one, overall approval, he's gone down 8 points from 53 to 45. When you talk about how people feel like he's dealing with inflation, he's gone down 8 points again, down to 38 from 45. And but the interesting thing is how he's handling the border and immigration. He's still at 55. So if I were he, I would probably focus on that for right now because people seem to be somewhat happy with what he's handling there. But the interesting part to me was in the polling, they asked Democrats how they felt about how Democrats are dealing with the Trump administration. And 66% said they were frustrated with their own party, and 55%, I think, said that they were nervous. So I think the polls during the first 100 days are a mixed bag for both parties. You know, we said before that a large reason that the president won was because the Democrats didn't have good policies, didn't have a message, and didn't have a direction. And I think they've been scrambling to try and develop that, and I haven't seen that happen thus far. But let's remember the 100 days, just for some context, started with FDR. And in those first 100 days, FDR, who's considered one of the best presidents in the history of the United States of America, put together the New Deal. So he had a great first 100 days, and a great legacy to his presidency. But conversely, President Lincoln had a horrible first 100 days because the Union basically collapsed. And then he is one of our most respected presidents, too. So I think with anything else, polling numbers, the first 100 days, they're all data points that people should look at. And it's about how people feel. And right now, I think generally speaking, people are, whether it's the stock market, whether it's the boardroom, and whether it's your living room, people are upset because they're unsure. And uncertainty is worse than knowing what's happening. Because the stock market's kind of coming back a little bit, but we're still uncertain with all these tariffs.
Yeah. So, Jimmy, I know you're going to have a lot to say about this. We had Mayor Justin Elliker in New Haven just a little bit ago on Eyewitness News at noon saying that the 100 days has been disastrous in every way for New Haven. Obviously, he's a Democratic mayor. What's your take?
The first 100 days in President Trump's administration has been all about a decline. It's been about a meltdown in the stock market. It's been about a weakening American dollar, the economy slowing down, which is not what voters and people wanted to see. Meanwhile, they are gutting the Department of Education. They are gutting the program funding for programs that we see right here in Connecticut, whether it's public health programs that have been cut back, environmental and flood mitigation programs that have been cut, anything around the environment that our communities look forward to, as well as food and nutrition programs right here in Connecticut. And while they slow the economy, we see the largest tax increase in American history with President Trump's tariffs. Tariffs across the world, 145% and climbing to China, and people are beginning to see those prices increase, and that's not what they signed up for. And so it's been a difficult economic time on the decline, and what's also on the decline is the poll numbers, which have spelled out that people largely do not approve of the president's job on the economy, and they don't believe that we're moving in the right direction. This president has the wealthiest cabinet by far of any American president, more billionaires in this cabinet than any other cabinet in presidential history. And time again, he tries to serve an agenda to working people, but everything that he is doing is about what works for the billionaire class and not for working people. And you see that spell out in his first 100 days of the administration.
And it's interesting that although I hear what you're saying, and I hear Democrats say it every day, that Trump and Republicans are only from the working people. The only reason Trump got elected, besides the Democrats got him elected, because of their bad policies, was because he has become, and I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but it is the reality. He has become the poster boy for the working class. I don't really understand it either, but he has. They used to say that Republicans were champagne and caviar and Democrats were beer and wings. It has flip-flopped, and the Republican Party has become the blue-collar, beer and wings, regular guy thing. And he may be helping wealthier people, and I don't care if people in his cabinet have $1 billion or $1 billion cents. I don't care. I want them to know what they're doing and be able to help this country.
Well, they don't.
So
Well, they
class
don't-
warfare never really helps us.
Let me just say for a second, the news today, obviously Elon Musk told his investors he'd be stepping back, but the news making news today that he's officially the chief of staff saying he's no longer in the White House. Quickly, what do you think we're going to see in the next 100 days now that Elon Musk is taking a step back? There has been some criticism. Do you think Trump will just continue based on what he thinks is right, or do you think things shift?
Listen, I think it's no surprise. I think it was never supposed to be that Elon Musk was going to stay there the whole time. Clearly, he's having his own problems with his own company, and I think he understands he needs to focus more on that. I still think he will be an advisor to President Trump. I think President Trump continues to listen to people that he believes knows what they're doing, but I think at the end of the day, he does what he wants. Right? I think that's how he's always been. I think that's how he always will be.
Jimmy?
Well, his cabinet doesn't know what they're doing. You look at Secretary Hegseth as one example. And what's also interesting about this president, in addition to surrounding himself with billionaires, which you saw at the inauguration and you see in the cabinet, is also how little he's working with Congress. Republicans run the government right now. Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the White House. But yet, most of everything he has done has been through executive order. And one of the things that Americans have a problem with, and it spells it out in the polling over these last 100 days, is how he is trying to concentrate power and gain more power in the White House and not working with Congress.
And he broke the record for executive orders. He beat FDR's number of 99 with 142 executive orders.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right. So
Interesting.
FDR had a huge number of
Back to
executive
FDR.
orders. Interesting to know. Let's move it back to some local issues. If you've been watching the news, you saw that CCSU Chancellor Chang was not fired, not really even let go, more put in a board position, but there was a lot of criticism about his flagrant spending, and now Chancellor Chang is going to be on the board. He gets to keep his $400,000 salary for a little bit of time. From an insider perspective, what are you saying, Jimmy?
So look, his contract was not continued, and he is being removed from the chancellor position. As I understand it, in the coming weeks, there will be a new chancellor announced. There was an audit done based on some of the findings, which did show some excessive spending, right, and fancy meals and chauffeur services, and that's not a good look, and it wasn't appropriate, and he even admitted that. And so he is out as the chancellor, and he will be no longer with, the university system as we look to a new head of the university system in Connecticut.
Okay, so you're on board with that, but some people are saying, I saw some of the Republicans saying yesterday it didn't go far enough. Why does he get to keep his salary and be on the board?
well, first of all, he has an employment contract, and any of us that have jobs and have contracts with people and businesses understand that that's part of his contract, and his contract goes till 2026.
Okay.
So he was removed, and in his contract it said he would still get paid, which don't even get me started on state employee contracts, because that's a whole another situation. But that was part of his contract. But he was removed. If you read the articles carefully, the Board of Regents was directed him to be removed because they had lost faith. There was no confidence, and they point blank said it was a lack of leadership. I think the Republicans in the House and Senate's position is, well, you should have done this a while ago when this whole thing happened. I don't understand when you're in a public position. As somebody that's in office for many years, everybody's watching every move you make, every word you say, where you're going, where you're talking to all the time, everything you buy, everything you wear, everything you drive, everything. And so for somebody like him, who wasn't a 20-year-old kid, he's been out in the world for a while, to say, I live in Westchester, and he was given a stipend to move here and never moved, yet got car services to drive him back and forth. It just was against everything we talk about as far as a public servant, or somebody in the public sector. And we see all these issues we're having with education and funding and dorms and all this stuff, and now $442,000 is going to this guy who's going to be a strategic advisor. I don't want any strategy or any advising from somebody who would do that kind of thing and think it was okay.
And the funds that we spend on our state universities really should be going towards the classroom, going towards education, going towards the students. So no matter what he had done in his past and how good his career may have been or what he does, obviously he will be remembered by $60 steaks and a show for his services, and it was inappropriate.
Okay, so there's the take on that from the insiders. We're also wanting to talk about a flag debate, and if you've been following this, perhaps you know that Hartford's been dealing with an issue of whether or not they have to fly the Satanology flag, and Ridgefield also is getting requests to fly some pride flags for the month of June. So different cities, but these flag debates are popping up. So I want to hear from both sides of the aisle. How should people be thinking about this in their own town? It's probably not the last time we're going to hear about this. Let's start with you, Themis.
Every town has different rules, so to speak, and different like ordinances, you know, what you can put up, what lawn signs you can put up, when you can put them up, what flags go up, et cetera. And in Hartford, the issue was the city council voted last year, and I believe this year, to put up the Christian flag, which until then I didn't know there actually was one, but you know, there's a flag for everything. So they put that up, and this group, what is it, Satanology? Satanology. There is a Satanology flag. So they feel like, well, constitutionally, if that flag is up, our flag should be up. And in Ridgefield, the issue is it's an LGBTQ flag, and the problem started in Ridgefield back in the fall when they flew an Israeli flag on town property, and people were upset because they didn't feel that was the proper place. I mean, and for me, you know, I've been to every town and city in this state more than once. It just needs to be consistent. I mean, you either have to let everybody fly a flag or you don't fly flags. In Ridgefield, they said they're just going to fly the town flag, the state flag, the United States flag, and I think the POW flag. And for now, they're not going to do
any other
flag. But, you know, I think there's other ways to do it. You can say, we'll fly the flag for 3 days. But, you know, I have to tell you, and this is just my personal feeling, they did fly the Christian flag, but I wouldn't want the Satanology flag flown. Mm-hmm. But as an attorney, I understand constitutionally,
you can't pick one religion over another.
You can't let the other. So I mean, that's where the problem comes in.
So, and Jimmy, what about the idea of having flags to raise awareness for groups like LGBTQ?
Right. So, look, in our country, we believe in symbolism, and that symbolism often comes in the way of a flag. And many groups do have a flag. We do have a separation of church and state, but as we're talking about, municipalities can have their own ordinance and they can have their own rule about what flags are flown. And right, if you allow one group, then what's not to say that you couldn't allow the other group? But I know that flags are about visibility. And I know that I've seen groups authentically approach a mayor, Democratic mayors, Republican mayors, and say, you know, it's important to us to have a pride flag flown. And that's important to LGBT people, to young LGBT people who see that we need more visibility in our communities. You know, the LGBT community, particularly youth, are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their counterparts. And so no matter what's happening at the federal government or the state government, to see that your own town cares about you and to see that your own town cares about the people that are living there means a lot to a young LGBT person. And so flying that pride flag means something to young gay people in their towns. Now, whether that's actually at the town hall or at other places in town, I have seen mayors work with local groups to fly the pride flag for even just a couple of days. And it is that kind of symbolism that means something to those communities that approach their town authentically and say, this is important to us, let's work together on a program or an event and fly the pride flag.
Well,
I agree with you.
To be, you know, it's going to be something that towns have to think about. Do we have a policy that allows
right.
Pride Month is June versus getting stuck perhaps having to fly a flag that is not something that anyone wants all the time?
I mean, I agree on the LGBTQ flag, but would you want the Satanology flag flown in your town?
No, and we also have a separation of church and state
exactly.
for
So
any
I think you
religion
can
or
separate,
no religion.
right? You can separate religion versus awareness.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and that's the thing. This is an awareness versus
That's
religion.
an awareness.
Well, that's where the towns need to.
There could be a breast cancer flag in October, as an example, right? There could be awareness flags and define them in a certain way in your ordinances versus religious flags. I mean, that you can separate it in a lot of different ways.
Right.
Interesting. So we, you know, this is something that if you happen to be in a position of leadership out in a town, people are going to have to think about this because it is coming up more and more and more. I want to just move to something fun. We've been talking about UConn a lot. Big news, Alex Caravan staying. He wants to try and maybe get another national championship. We are the basketball capital of the world. We are invention place of pizza. That's what is what it says on our state sign. So I don't care what anyone thinks. The signs say that we're the basketball capital and the pizza capital. So we're going to go with it.
I'm going with that.
Yes.
Okay, UConn is having a pizza vote. And a little bit of fun to get us all. We're, by the way, looking for the best breakfast place on WFSB.com. But tell us, you brought this issue, this very important issue to our attention, Themis. There's a pizza vote going on at UConn.
Well, as most people know, there's a very well-known dairy bar at UConn, right? Because it's up in stores. There's a lot of dairy up there, and they've always had, I think it's called the Campus Scoop. So they have a contest to name an ice cream. So I guess a few years ago they started with the Campus Slice. And so they have a vegan and a non-vegan pizza that competes, and then they pick the best of all of them. And it's funny because the one that won this year was a fellow from, I don't know if he's from New Haven or New Haven area, but he combined bar pizza, which was like a mashed potato kind of pizza, with a Sally's kind of rosemary. So it was like mashed potato, caramelized onions, hope I get this right, rosemary, cherry tomatoes, and bacon, and that's the one that won for the non-vegan one.
Okay.
I don't remember the vegan one.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to you.
Hey, we are home of the world's best
We are.
basketball, pizza. I'm from
Yep.
Shelton in the Naugatuck Valley, so we've got the Wiffle Ball Factory,
Yeah.
our claim to fame in our country, and I love a mashed potato pizza
Yes.
from Bar, so count me up for mashed potatoes,
We're
bacon,
in.
mozzarella.
You know,
Oh, that's what I missed. The mozzarella.
Mozzarella, okay.
I knew I would miss one thing.
All right, so
moops.
you bring up a good point as we close out our show. I mean, one of the things is trying to figure out how we can create more revenue in Connecticut and lower taxes maybe, or at least not raise them, all of that. We're moving into summer season. There is an effort to bring more tourism dollars. Do you think that's bipartisan, a plan? Would you say that this is, both sides agree that Connecticut could do some better marketing with tourism and that we could drive revenue that way?
Several years ago, the state of Connecticut hired a marketing firm. I think we talked about this once, but I want to say it again.
Yeah.
And we spent millions of dollars. Like when people would ask me how we could cut, because I always say we need to cut bloated government, not just think about how we're going to raise taxes or spend more money. Where would you cut? We spent, I think, $10 million on a marketing firm that came up with this tagline for Connecticut: still revolutionary.
Yeah.
Now, let me say this to you. When you have, Otis and Nancy out in Idaho in the middle of winter saying to themselves, honey, where do you think we should go on our one vacation this year, this summer? I think we should go to Connecticut because it's still revolutionary. Which is a conversation that's never been had. Now we have, we've had pizza forever. But now we're getting all this attention for pizza. Basketball is amazing. Like, those are things that people want to come for. Then they get here and they see all the amazing restaurants, the shoreline, like the beautiful foliage. I mean, there's so many amazing things about Connecticut. And, you get them here, and then you show them everything that's here.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, forget the fancy consultants. We should go to the TikTokers, the Instagram influencers, go to young people who know how to message and market and talk about the wine trails we have, the beer trails, the brewery, the antique trails, the chocolate trails, all of it. And we've got all 4 seasons. It's the best here in Connecticut, so we should absolutely emphasize our tourism and get people to Connecticut throughout the spring and summer.
We are trying to create the movie trail. Although we just reported this week, which I'm throwing this at you because we didn't get a chance to talk, we just reported this week that one of the ideas, I don't know if it's going to go through, was cutting a lot of the tax cuts for films, which seemed like...
That's been on the table for a while.
Yeah, it's just where we need to cut, or I don't know. We'll have to see what comes out. We've already said, this budget that's out there right now, expect a lot of changes.
Yes,
Right.
many changes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this
is
is a
just
time
the
where
starting
people are
point.
going to start fighting for
Starting
what they
point.
want.
Mhm.
Okay.
Every day.
Okay, so if you're a fan of the pizza trail, the chocolate trail, maybe the movie trail, there's still more to come. But I think we can all agree that getting other people to spend money here is a good way to help supplement all of us, right?
It is.
Regardless
Yes.
of where you sit in the aisle.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you for watching the Capitol Rundown. Just want to let you know you can tell your friends about this. Again, we want to have balanced coverage on issues that matter to you. You can go to WFSB.com, click right on local news. You'll find the show there. And we'll, of course, post it. You can follow me at Kara Sundlun on social media, and Themis and Jimmy are both on social media as well to get the word out about our great exclusive streaming show. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, insiders. Have a great day.